Several things that you have to remember before you're dividing, multiplying, adding, subtracting complex numbers. I is equal to the square root of -1. I squared is equal to -1. And then you got to remember that when you divide complex numbers, you have to use a conjugate, multiply by the conjugate, and we'll talk about that right now. So we have 2 minus 7i, and since we have a minus here, that's going to be distributed, so it's plus 4 plus 5i. And if we simplify, we're going to add the reals. 2 plus 4 gives you 6. Negative 7i plus 5i gives you negative 2i. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and add negative 6 plus 3 plus 7i plus 2i. I will add the real part, which is going to be negative 6 plus 3, which gives you negative 3, plus I'm going to add the imaginary 7i and 2i. That gives you 9i. Here we're multiplying complex numbers, so you're going to apply the distributive property. Negative 7 times 2 gives you negative 14. You're going to use the FOIL method here, that's what I meant to say. So you have negative 7 times negative 7i gives you plus 49i. 6i times 2 gives you 12i. And then 6i times negative 7i gives you negative 42i squared. Remember what we said about I squared? That gives you negative 1. So we have negative 14 plus 49 plus 12 gives us 70. Gives us 70i minus 42 times negative 1. That becomes a positive, so you have negative 14 plus 70i plus 42. 42 plus a negative 14 gives you 28. So you have 28. You have 28 plus 70i. So we have 49. 49 plus 12 gives us 61. So this should have been 61i. This is 61i, 61i, 61i. Okay. Here we have negative 6i times 5i times a quantity of negative 3 plus 3i. I'm going to multiply these two first. So negative 6i times 5i gives you negative 30i squared, parentheses, negative 3 plus 3i. Negative 30 times negative 1 times negative 3 plus 3i. So negative 30 times negative 1 is 30, parentheses, negative 3 plus 3i, which gives you negative 30 plus 90i. Once again, it's negative 90. Sorry about that. What we're going to do for number 5 is we're going to multiply negative 1 minus 3i times negative 1 minus 3i. So you're going to do the FOIL property or FOIL process. Negative 1 to negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 times negative 3i gives you positive 3i. Negative 3i times negative 1 gives you positive 3i. And then negative 3i times negative 3i gives you positive 9i squared. So this is 1 plus 3i gives you 6i. Let me write again, 6i. And then you have minus 9 since I squared is negative 1. So you have negative 8 plus 6i. before we do any division, let's simplify. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So you have negative 1 over I. And the conjugate is going to be I. So what do we have? You have to multiply the denominator by the conjugate and divide the numerator by the conjugate. So you divide both numerator and denominator by the conjugate. So you get negative I over I squared. But we notice that I squared is negative 1, so you're left with I. Negative I over negative 1, so that's I. So once again, you're dividing, so you're going to multiply by the conjugate. So it's negative I. So you have negative I squared. Negative I times 1 gives you negative I. Negative I times negative 6 gives you positive 6I squared. So you have negative 1 plus 6 times negative 1 divided by, this is I. And then negative, and then I squared is negative 1. Remember that I squared is equal to negative 1. So what you have first is negative 6 minus I divided by negative 1, so negative 1 is 1, so it's negative 6 minus I. So 8 we're dividing here, so what you're going to multiply is by its conjugate, which is negative 5 minus 4I. Negative 5 minus 4I. And so let's go ahead and do the FOIL method. So you have negative, and I'll do it on the side. So you have negative 5 plus 4I times negative 5 minus 4I. Negative 5 times negative 5 gives you 25. Negative 5 times negative 4I gives you positive 20I. And 4I times negative 5 gives you negative 20I. And then 4I times negative 4I gives you negative 16I squared. So you have 25 minus 16 times negative 1. So it's actually 16 plus 25. So you have 16 plus 25. So it should be 41. Okay. So the denominator is 41. So now we have 8. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply the numerator. So you have 8 plus 5I times negative 5 minus 4I. So you have 8 times negative 5 gives you negative 40. 8 times negative 4I gives you negative 32I. 5I times negative 5 gives you negative 25I. And then 5I times negative 4I gives you negative 20I squared. So you have negative 40. And then 32, negative 32 and negative 25. Negative 32 minus 25 gives you negative 57. This will be negative 20 times negative 1. Remember that I squared is negative 1. So you have negative 40 minus 57I plus 20. Negative 20 minus 57I. Negative 20 minus 57I. So you're dividing complex numbers. You're going to multiply by the conjugate. So it's going to be 9 minus 8I. That's in the denominator. And then the numerator is going to be 9 minus 8I. So if you want to get some scratch paper or do it on the side, you have 9 plus 8I times 9 minus 8I. So 9 times 9 gives you 81. 9 times negative 8 gives you negative 72I. 8 times 9 gives you positive 72i. And then 8 times 8 gives you negative 64i squared. So it's 81. That cancels. Negative 64 times I squared, that's a negative 1. So it's minus 64 times negative 1. So it's going to be 81 plus 64. And that gives you 145. So that's going to be in your denominator. 145. Now you got to multiply. You got to multiply the numerator. So you have negative 7 plus 10i times 9 minus 8i. So negative 7 times 9 gives you negative 63. Negative 7 times negative 8 gives you 56. 10i times 9 gives you 90i. And then 10 times negative 8 gives you negative 80i squared. So you have negative 63 plus, this is 146. 56 plus 90 gives you 146i. And this is minus 80 times negative 1. So that's positive 80. And you have 146i plus negative 63 plus negative 63 plus 146 gives you 83. So it's 83 plus 146i. So negative 7 times 9 is negative 56. I don't know why I put that. No, that's right, 63. Negative 63 plus 80 is 17. So this should have been 17. 17 plus 146i divided by 145. That's good. We're going to divide again by, we're going to divide complex numbers. Remember to multiply by the conjugate. Negative 9 plus 9i. Negative 9 plus 9i. You're going to multiply each of them by the conjugate, the numerator and the denominator. I'm going to go ahead and do it to the side, work it on the side. So you have negative 9 minus 9i times negative 9 plus 9i. You notice that the middle will cancel. Negative 9 times negative 9 gives you 81. Negative 9 times 9i gives you negative 81i. Plus 9 times 9 gives you positive 81. And then negative 9 times 9 gives you negative 9i squared. This cancels. So you have 81 minus 9. 81. Should be 81. 81i squared. Negative, and then it's a negative. So it's 81 plus 81, which gives you 162. So our denominator is going to have 162. Now we are going to multiply 8i times negative 9 plus 9i. So you have 72i, that's negative, plus 72i squared. So this 72i squared is negative 72 plus minus 72i. So you have negative 72 minus 72i. And do they have anything in common? Does 72 go into 62? 162. So you have 162 divided by 2, 81. So if you divide by 81, I think 72 divided by 2 is 36. So it's negative 36 minus 36i. Not sure if 36, 9 goes into 36. So you have negative 9 minus 9i over, 4 minus 4i over 9. So what I did here is I divided by 2 since I'm simplifying, and then I divided by 9. So that's my answer.